What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm here with
Gersh one.
And today we're back at it answering more of your questions in another episode of For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. And that is what Hunter Hayes has done. Could a Primarch be brought back to life in the same way that a Primaris Marine can be brought back to life? So, there's a story for God School, or for the box set with God School and Blackmane, where that happened. God School basically killed Blackmane, but his body was recovered, and they were able to implant the gene seed and turn him into a Primaris Marine, which is why you have a Blackmane model right now. Can you do that with Primarch? The answer is no, just because a Space Marine and a Primarch are very different.
Right. Their anatomy is different, their physiology is very different, and not just that, but you also have to think about the whole, like, when Belisarius Cawl was creating and crafting and trying to perfect the gene seed, he was working with Space Marines, not so much Primarch gene seed.
Right, yeah. And like it is one of those situations where they don't have gene seed organs. They're just like superhumans. That's how they were created when the Emperor first set out on his Primarch project. And obviously most of them have some type of like warp connection or connection to the warp. It's just way more complicated. Now, with that said, I would not be surprised if it happened.
Yeah.
Just because GW has been rumoring that they want to bring back Sanguinius, which is really the only Primarch that was said to be dead.
Besides Ferrus Manus.
Right, yeah, but he's decapitated.
He's decapitated. He's been dead for a long, long time. Like, if you were to try to bring back his body, like, you can't. It's, like, decomposed and gone.
Yeah.
As where with Blackmane, like, Ragnar was still somewhat like fresh meat.
Right, yeah. Also, just to theorize, like, let's say GW does decide to resurrect one of the Primarchs, I don't think it would be through gene seed. I think it would be through the clones that Fabius Bile created, because he created one clone for every single Primarch, and I think only like 2 or 3 are adults. The rest of them are just like in gestation capsules, just like they were during or right before the Great Crusade. If somehow the Imperium or somebody, maybe an Eldar, got a hold of Ferrus Manus's clone, they could somehow resurrect him in the form of like a clone, but then it would just be the clone.
Yeah, the closest thing that a Primarch has gotten to being resurrected is a Guilliman, because he was still alive. He wasn't dead and brought back. He was in a near-death state because of the poison that Fulgrim did. But the armor's keeping him alive, and not just that, but like the Eldar trickery and shenanigans also helped too.
Yeah, so if GW ever wants to create another piece of armor that miraculously brings back Primarchs to life, they can, because that's what they did to Guilliman.
And I think to have a Primaris Primarch would just be like, okay, like where's the ceiling going on this? Like at one point, is it going to be just like too much?
Yeah. Another thing too that they could do is like deify a Primarch, because Sanguinius is being worshipped.
Right.
So we know that the Emperor is manifesting himself in the warp as the god of not order, but like the god of light. So it could be the same thing for Sanguinius, where like there is a manifestation because so many people worship Sanguinius with Sanguinala, like basically their Christmas. And yeah, so like he can come back as almost like a living saint, because he's being worshipped.
Right.
So that's another possibility.
And seeing the route that GW takes with like trying to make the most money possible, it's definitely in their interests and in their bank account is interest to bring back a Primarch so beloved like Sanguinius.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think those are, if you guys have any other theories as to how they can bring back a Primarch, let us know what it is in the comment section below.
I definitely want to see something having to do with Isha, the goddess of rebirth. Since you've already made the connection between Guilliman and the Eldar, there's got to be some more to it.
Yeah.
Or Ennead, like that's another god of like rebirth and stuff like that.
Right. Next question.
This one is by Palms McGee. The God of Despair. Isn't that Nurgle? So when it comes to the Chaos Gods, like they encompass a lot of different aspects of belief. So like Slaanesh is the god of like decadence, pleasure, pain, that kind of thing. But it's also about trying to be perfect. So there's different facets that they all encompass. And yeah, you are right. Like Nurgle does greed, poxes and all that. But you're right when it comes to, what did you say? Despair? Yeah.
You could argue, yeah, that it could be. I think you can also argue
For
against
all
it.
of
Right?
them,
Yeah. I think we've gone through this little experiment before when we were talking about I think it was greed, right? We ended up saying like no, like greed fits in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next question. This one comes from Jomel Apostle. Why Necrons did not use the celestial orrery to dominate the galaxy? I think it was the war in heaven. So like because the orrery is basically like the Death Star, isn't it?
Basically, yeah, it's a planet or a star killing machine.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where it's like, well, why didn't the U.S. just keep bombing places with the atomic bomb? Because it hurts things.
Yeah.
Like it would ruin an entire system if one of their planetary bodies is just gone. And the enslaver plague happened, so it's like, I don't exactly know when they got the orrery, like in the timeline, and I don't think GW's ever gonna say. But like, yeah, at a certain point, you're just kind of like, well, how are we gonna kill enslavers? We can't blow up a planet just because it has enslavers. They can just pop back up.
It's like, at what point is just blowing up a planet hurting us too much? Yeah, it's mostly like a show of force. Like we have something that can do this, and then the world and stuff comply. But there's no compliance when it comes to the enslavers.
Yeah, and another thing too, when you look at the War in Heaven, there's not that much details on it, but the rumors are that like the old ones might have not been one singular race, but like a collaboration, or what is it called, a conglomeration of different reptilian races.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then they probably have different homeworlds. So kind of like craft worlds right now. If the Necrons, they do have the orrery, couldn't they just go around killing all the craft worlds, the ships, the craft world ships? And the answer is yeah, but it's also mobile. So it's harder to kill a target that doesn't really have a homeworld.
Right. And the more that they use the orrery, the more ways of finding out like its weakness or ways to combat it. So that could be their ace, the orrery, but after a while it's like they're going to find out a way to kind of use that to their disadvantage, I guess.
Yeah. Next question.
Conrad asks, between Red Bull and Monster, which would you choose and why? P.S. Good answer. Dogs are indeed better.
I don't drink energy drinks like that. Like if I need energy, I just take pre-workout. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in like college days, I would only go for Monster. I don't know why. I think I just like the black and green colors of the can more than like the gray and blue.
And the satanic label on it.
Sure.
Didn't it say 666 in like Arabic or
something?
Something.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all subconscious. Maybe I didn't need wings at the time. I don't know.
Maybe you were a chaos worshiper all along.
Tal vez.
This question comes from Doug Savage. How come GW doesn't make official deathcore minis? People love the style and spend out the ass for third party. No, they do. Forge World.
But they're also expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why you see most people go into third party, because even though the third party is kind of expensive, it's still cheaper, quicker, and easier to get than going to Forge World.
Yep.
Because a lot of things that are Forge World, I've noticed, have been going like away. Like the whole Kroot line, they're trying to get rid of it, or I think they've already gotten rid of it.
Yeah, they did, yep.
So it's just like, these models are pretty cool, but it's like, not a lot of people are buying them, so it doesn't make sense to keep, promoting and putting out these models when people will just look the other way.
Yeah.
So I think that's another reason as to why we don't see a model for every single regiment, like Acadia, the Death Corps. What are those? Kazarkins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kazarkins are basically the Tempestus Scions, but there's so many like
Different
Imperial Guard
styles,
regiments. And you could still special order them. But again, it's one of those situations where like I don't think people like even if you play a guard army, you're playing tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And tanks are the same, whether it's Death Korps of Krieg or Cadian Guard.
Right. If anything, you would do it to flex.
Right. This question on the topic of Death Korps of Krieg is by Shinku Kirito Ichika. So the Death Korps of Krieg versus Republican clone troopers. Who would win? The Death Korps of Krieg.
Yeah. Because when you look at, like, Star Wars, whether you're talking about... Did he say clones or, like...
The Republic clone troopers, yeah.
Okay, so yeah. So if it's the clones... you see different variations of them. Like, sometimes they perform really well. Sometimes they're just fodder. But whenever you look at, like, 40K stuff, it's like these people are fighting for their lives. Like,
Yeah.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, they're going to be more disciplined, and if they die, it's the Imperium just throws bodies against bodies against bodies. I mean, yeah, Star Wars kind of does do that because, I mean, they're just clones. But I feel like in terms of, like, armor, equipment, and just overall, like, morale, like, the clones don't compare to 40K stuff.
Yeah. And even in the lore of Star Wars, I think eventually the reason that they switched over from clone troopers to, like, just...
recruiting people.
Yeah, it's because it became cheaper.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the Imperium does not care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have a huge war... What do they call it? War machine? Like, the entire... Like,
oh, yeah. Unless maybe you're talking about the Gendy clone troopers.
Which ones are those?
Those are badass. Like the Samurai Jack style ones.
In Star Wars?
Mm-hmm. Like the little mini episodes they did.
Oh, I don't remember. No.
That was pretty badass.
This question comes from Braxton Grundy. Since the Eldar is the weakest race, why doesn't the Imperium or the Orcs try to take their territory? So the Eldar are on craft worlds, so their territory, they don't have a territory. The galaxy is their territory. They could just move around. They're like those TikTokers that are really popular right now where they go, I'm going to buy this minibus and I'm going to turn it into my home. And then they travel the world and get a bunch of views and live like hippies, never showering and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of them have showers. Never mind.
That is true. But I feel it'd be very uncomfortable to shower in a van or something.
Yeah, or just use the bathroom.
Yeah.
I hope craft worlds have, like, good bathrooms. Which they probably do, because a craft world is the size of a continent.
Yeah. If they don't, then it's like, what's going on here?
But yeah. Next question.
This one is by JH. Do you think that the consequences of 40K are becoming mainstream? Would they tone down the grim dark to appeal to a wider audience?
Oh, for sure.
I think we'll really get to know the toning down, if that's going to be like a thing of the future, when these animated like series pop up. Because obviously we saw the trailer for, what was it called? Angels of Death. Yeah. So that looks pretty like bloody and like grim dark. So I think we're okay with that one. But then there's also going to be like another animated anthology. Plus we have, I think, that animated live action series that supposedly was going to come a while back. But, you know. So I think once we get to see how these animated shorts and series are going to be pushed towards like the wider public, we'll get a better notion of that.
Also, that's not something that we should focus on, because I think it's like a popular thing to like complain about, like, oh, it's like the grim darkness is going away and stuff. But really what these people, because it's usually like guys from the community that are building these animations, what they should focus on is a good story. Mm-hmm. Which shouldn't be that hard, because I feel like the person that did the best of using good story and the grim darkness was Death of Hope, when we got to see like the Ultramarines from 30K basically get tortured by those, I think it was Iron Warriors, right?
I think so. I don't know, Word Bearers.
Oh, Word Bearers?
Yeah, because it was Ultramarines against Word Bearers. Yeah. Battle of Calif.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
That was really good. But at the same time, the story could have been told without like seeing the decapitate. No, what was it? His eyelids were cut off.
Yeah.
His lower jaw was removed, I think.
He was cut in half. Yeah. Almost pretty much crucified.
Yeah. Which is cool, but I would have, like, you could still tell a really good story without doing all that.
Mm-hmm. But at what point do you lose what makes it 40K and it's just like any sci-fi thing?
Well, I don't think you ever would, just because of the fact that like you
They're
do
Space
have
Marines.
Space Marines, and you also have the warp and like that like psychic powers and stuff like that, which is way different than the Force.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. Like you said, we just gotta wait and see for these animations. Next one comes from the big one. What chaos god do those boom batties on the TV show My 600-Pound Life worship? Gluttony, right? So gluttony would be, it wouldn't be perfection. I don't think it would even touch, well, would it touch Slanesh? Because there is pleasure in eating.
That's true, yeah.
So Slanesh maybe?
Yeah, decadence.
Yeah.
Pleasure, yeah.
I enjoy eating.
I mean,
who doesn't,
right? This one's by Alan Hillard. Hey, new fan of Warhammer 40K. Very cool stuff so far. I like the Tau Empire, and I see them winning in the long run. What do you guys think? Like, in the future of 40K, will the Tau win?
So there's a lot of theories you talked about one this week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole thing about the future of 40K is that it can go any way. Like, there's no clear, like, oh, I could for sure see the Emperor becoming a god. I mean, it could just be that, no, he dies, and that's it.
Right.
But with the whole Tau thing, I think that's a little bit easier to kind of decipher, because right now I see three main things happening. A huge civil war between like the Enclaves and the Tau Empire that the Ethereals are going to kind of push their narrative on, but also it's going to bring in dynamic like choices and whatnot, because Shadowsun is teetering on like, well, the Ethereals aren't as great as I thought. Farsight is starting to make more sense now. He saved me, I saved him, that kind of thing. So that's one direction they could take it. Another is the route of humanity with AI, because they have advanced technologically really quickly, and they're to the point where like their drones are almost self-thinking. So will that lead to another artificial intelligence revolt, kind of like the Men of Iron? So that's another thing. And then it could be the whole civil war between the Tau themselves against all the other races that are part of the greater good. The Vespid, the Groot, and we saw that with the Startide Nexus as to how that's kind of, I don't know if it's tampering with the minds of the Tau with chaos, and maybe that's going to lead to another schism. So there's a lot of different avenues that could happen with the Tau Empire, and depending on which route GW takes, that's kind of going to shape the greater Imperium. Because whatever happens with the Tau will make a ripple that'll affect all the other factions.
Yeah, because it's really important to remember that just because the Tau Empire is desirable, like you want to be part of the Tau Empire, it sounds pretty badass.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make them the winners.
The good guys, yeah.
Yeah. Or because of all the things that you mentioned too. They're still young.
Yeah. There's a lot that they haven't experienced yet, such as the warp. So we'll see.
Yeah, they gotta take it in the booty hole from the warp.
Mm-hmm.
This next question comes from Turd Ferguson. If cats were abundant in 40K, would Chaos have pet cats, even if they just twisted them into Chaos mutations over and over? Yeah, of course. I think there already is. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that you can find like Chaos animals. What are they? Check out our 40 facts on the creatures of 40K. What are the ones that look like blue chimpanzees with like multiple eyes or no eyes?
Oh,
I think they're for the Dark Eldar.
The Dark Eldar, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because there's those, and then there's the ones that you were using for your D&D campaign.
The Ghouls.
Ghouls, yeah. So yeah, there are.
Yeah, the Eldar have like lynxes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure those can be mutated and corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Kitbash it. Put it on Instagram and show us.
This one is by JJ Sheets 330. He's got Pedro Picapiedras as his avatar.
Pedro, his name is Pedro?
Yeah.
Fred
Flintstone. Isn't Fabius Bile a chaos god now, or could he be considered one? No. I mean,
yeah,
he's just like a mad scientist.
If anything, like a greater demon at most, like to the level of like he's not because he's still Chaos Undivided. But I do understand what he's saying in terms of like, isn't he a better Chaos Space Marine than most other Chaos Space Marines? Yes, because of his knowledge.
Right.
But yeah, he's not a god.
No. And it's interesting how he's undivided, but like his whole legion are devoted to Slaanesh.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you that it's okay to pave your own path and not follow the crowd.
Yeah. See, that's why 40K does such a good job of just inspiring, making people feel good, even with the grim darkness.
Yeah.
And those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Remember to put question in front of your question. Thank you for listening to us. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
This has been The Sound Alchemist.
Gersh1.
And we are out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.